Hi, I'm Heather from booktubes, and today is Romance Tropes Part 2. I'm doing this series specifically for Bree from the Lockbooktician. She asked me to, and so I've been doing it. I hope this is helpful to you if you are new to the romance genre or are just interested in knowing more about it. And these are some explanations. A lot of tropes are pretty self-explanatory, but I did try to pick ones that either I had multiple examples of or are a little bit more, you need the context. So first of all, tropes apply to the main character and or the love interest. So I know for me personally, a vampire romance is not going to be two humans falling in love and there's a bad evil vampire that they're trying to kill. If it's a vampire romance, either the main character or the love interest is a vampire. Same thing with serial killer or werewolf or fae. If you're going to use that as a trope for the book description, those creatures or those people or that thing can't just show up in the book. It has to be a part of the main character and the love interest and their relationship to each other. So the first one I have is morally gray. This is where often you'll have like mafia or criminals or somebody like that where they will kill people and torture people, but not women, not children, not innocents. They won't rape women in their care. They come down very hard on people who mess with children and things like that. So these morally gray characters, they aren't abusive to people who are weaker or younger or less protected than they are, but they also have some questionable morals. There's a lot of things that they are willing to do and they just don't feel guilty about handing out that torture or the murder or whatever it is. Like, that doesn't bother them, often because those people deserved it. But they aren't evil people. They aren't the type of people that are irredeemable. Then I have class difference. This is often in historical romances, but can be true of any type of romance. And this is where one person is not welcome into the other person's social circle because of class. So nobility or wealth, or you grew up on that side of town and we grew up on this side of town. You're from the bad part or from the good part, that type of thing. So it doesn't have to be that one is drastically more comfortable materially than the other, although that's often true. Often one person does have quite a bit more money than the other one. It can also really be, yeah, you're rich now, but where are your people from? Like you don't belong here just because you got money. That can be a thing too. So a lot of times this can be a conflict where one person's family won't approve of the match because of where the other person is from, that type of thing. Then I have widow and or widower. Again, this has to do specifically with the main character and the love interest. So one of them has had a spouse die. And sometimes this conflict is that they feel guilt for wanting to love anybody else, or nobody can ever compare to the dead spouse, and that, you know, is the ghost hanging over their possible relationship. So I do kind of tend to avoid these, but then I have fated mates. This can do a lot of different levels. So for some people, fated mates just means that there was only ever that one person for them. Sometimes it can mean that they have a telepathic ability with their mate down the mating bond. They can feel their mate no matter where they are. They know if they're okay. Some will share pain or share thoughts or emotions. For some, it's very distinct. For some, it's vague. Some people can block it. Some people can't. And there are types of mates where they don't share anything like that, but they are the one that's compatible. This can also be, especially with werewolves and stuff, sometimes is that you can only procreate with your mate. If you haven't claimed your mate yet, it can make you very possessive and jealous and things like that. There's a lot of range within the fated mates, but it does mean basically you were destined to be together. You can also have mates where it's not fated, so you were able to choose and there were actually multiple possibilities, but then you decided to form the mate bond. That's another thing. You can also have rejected mates. This is, again, not my favorite trope, but it's where the person's like, hey, you're my mate, and they're like, no, I'm not having you. And oftentimes this causes intense emotional and physical pain because mates aren't supposed to do that. You're supposed to be guaranteed that they will treat you well. Next, I have auction, and this is where, again, the main character or the love interest is up for auction. This can be consensual, it can be like a kink club thing, it can also be non-consensual, it can be literally you are buying that person. So there are a lot of different layers, but that's what it is. Somebody's up for sale one way or another. Then you have captor captive. This is where the love interest is specifically the one that is holding this person captive, whether that's because they were paid to or because they saw them and had to have them and they didn't care if that was consensual or not, or maybe they even took them because they were in danger from somebody else but they won't let them go and that person wants to be let go. Lots of different possibilities, but it's not just somebody took them, it's the love interest took them and is keeping them. Next, we have one night stand, which obviously means you met, you hooked up that night, and then you often end up playing into these specific tropes, like you're actually teacher and student, usually for college, or they're your new boss, so a workplace romance. There are lots of different ones, but almost always either there is a pregnancy that results from the one night stand and that's what's going to end up throwing you together either immediately or further down the line when they realize that they have a child with you, or you're immediately put in a forced proximity situation because you're their kid's teacher or you're their new secretary or something like that. Is usually where one night stand is going to play into it. Then we have some of the darker ones: serial killer, stalker, bodyguard, hitman, step family. Again, all of these are going to pretty much be the love interest, more so than the main character, but the person that they're going to have a relationship with falls into this category, and that's why it's called that romance. So oftentimes it is the hero, but I have read this with every possible combination. So you can't have a female stalker or serial killer. These things do exist, but often they are the hero. Next, you have cheating. A lot of people will avoid this at all costs. So it's usually pretty clear when it's in because otherwise they get really bad reviews from people who didn't want it and found it. But there's a couple different ways. One, you can be cheating on the love interest that you're going to be with, or you can be cheating with the love interest that you're going to be with. So I know the ones that I've read and enjoyed is because the person that they were with did not deserve them in any way, was not actually in love with them, was abusive, or was just very uncaring, and like I wasn't rooting for them at all. So I didn't really care as much as I personally, if circumstances allow, because not everyone is free to leave their relationship. But if circumstances allow, I am definitely on the side of just break up and then get involved with somebody else. But there have been situations in books where they couldn't leave, or it was just, they were still together with them, but this is the opportunity to be with them, where it didn't bother me. But this is either they're cheating on the person they're going to end up with, which obviously can be pretty heavy, or they're cheating with the person that they're going to be with, which is definitely my preference to read. Then you have love triangle. A love triangle is not a polyamorous relationship. They are not going to end up together. Is you have one person and you have love interest A and love interest B. The love interests have nothing to do with each other, but they're both competing for the main character. A lot of these can be slow burn. Obviously, this is a huge trope in young adult books, but it's not as prevalent in adult romance. It really isn't, especially not when there's not a clear winner. I do kind of like this when I'm not sure who they're going to choose. But yeah, that's what it is. You got a triangle. Two people are not connected to each other. They're both competing for the point at the top. Then you have siblings X or best friends X. very messy often, although sometimes you do get where like the sibling or the best friend is really rooting for them and they won't listen to them, so then that sets up their fake dating relationship because they're just trying to convince them, no, you should really get together with my ex, we were not right for each other, but you all would be genuinely perfect for each other, and if you could just get over this right now, because the words coming out of my mouth are, I think you should do it. But a lot of times you do end up damaging the relationship that you have with the person who used to be with them. So this can be a risky, angsty scenario. Next, I have caretaking. Again, this is where the love interest or the main character take care of each other. This can happen when they meet. They don't even know each other, but one of them is injured or sick and they take care of them. That's how they get introduced to each other in the first place. This can also be when they are in a well-established relationship and are living together or have been together for quite a while and something happens. And again, there's like very specific caretaking scenes. It's not just he got shot, he went in the hospital, he came out, we banged, it was fine. It's no, you have scenes of the main character or love interest really taking care of each other. I know that this works great in enemies to lovers romances, especially when they are not okay with each other yet. And yet that care, that basic human decency will not allow them to do anything but to take care of their every need when they can't take care of it themselves. The best. That's the best setup for it. It's really cute and sweet when it's meet cute or when it's later on in the relationship, but when they still don't trust each other or can't stand each other, but they have to take care of them and they do it without any irritation or reluctance. Oh, it's so good. It's so good, especially when this does kind of start forming the respect and the trust, because it's like, well, if you were as bad as I think you are, you wouldn't, like, how would you do all these things because you were the perfect person in this moment of need. And then lastly, I have one bed trope. This is what it sounds like. You go somewhere and when there's only one bed, the two of you are going to have to sleep together. There are a few different ways that this plays out. Number one, you both get in the bed and you just are cool with it. Number two, you both get in the bed, you put a line of pillows in between you, you're on the edges trying not to touch each other, then you wake up and you're literally on top of him. Number three, one of you sleeps on the bed or the couch. If it is the smaller character, often the bigger character will scoop them up and take them to the bed in the middle of the night because, like, no, you're not sleeping on the floor. And another one is where, because there is one bed, you might as well bang. And this is probably my personal favorite. So there's that. But yeah, so sometimes the one bed situation is just kind of cute and funny, and sometimes it does lead to steamy scenes, but it's always entertaining regardless. So that's it. That's all the tropes I have for you. If you have more that you want to explain, please let me know in the comments. I hope this was helpful to you. Let me know if there was any you didn't know and needed some context for. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.